Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. So this was another match in the Australia Day tournament that I managed to win through a Vienna Gambit game. I love the Vienna Gambit. And one of the interesting things in this game is my opponent ended up playing Lion Defense. And I'd never heard of the Lion Defense until I did the analysis. So I thought we would sort of go through that just a little bit. So the Lion Defense for black, so let's turn this around. So after e4, it's a flexible defense system for black that can be used against a number of systems. And it's where black potentially sort of holds back a little bit. It can be transposed from potentially the Piet's defense, also from the Philidor's defense. Let's say now the opponent plays, they try to take full control of the center. Black now plays a knight. Let's say they play that knight. And this is sort of a line defense. The knights in that position where they sort of support each other. Black keeps doesn't show their hand quickly. And potentially this is apparently quite a flexible system, and if played well, is like an alternative to the Sicilian. Now let's have a quick look at the review from our game. All right, so look, in this game, I played fairly well and rather more accurately than my opponent. Very pleased to see only one inaccuracy, no mistakes, no blunders, and I sort of captured the lead fairly quickly. Let's now have a look at the analysis from this game. So e4, e5, knight c3, Vienna game, Folkby, Vienna Gambit with f4. Now, my opponent here declined the Vienna Gambit with d6, setting up that sort of pawn diagonal. So it looks a little bit like almost a Philidor defense. And against the declining with d6, which is not the most optimal way of declining the Vienna Gambit, d5 is best. The best move is to develop the other knight, which basically allows me to play a d4, taking full control of the center. And now here, my opponent plays a knight in that position. So knight bd7, as you can see, that is sort of the lion defense type structure. And here, when I play a d4, it apparently transposes into this lion defense, which is interesting. Now, one of the challenges with the lion defense, now you can see, with perfect play, it's black is definitely not in a bad position. We're still very, very equal. But there are some challenges with the lion defense in that, the bishops are potentially hemmed in by their own pieces. So, that's something to consider. Now, how are you going to end up developing? White, I've also taken up more space. And potentially one of the things against the lion defense, at least from some of the reading sort of on the internet anyway, is that you can sometimes overwhelm the lion with sort of a very aggressive attack. And of course, with the Vienna, particularly through the Vienna Gambit, you can end up with some very aggressive attacks. Now, they capture. I here opted to capture back with a knight. Maybe capturing back with queen would have been better. They play c5, and, I'm now sort of ahead here. I decided to just bring my knight back rather than putting it into that position here. I wasn't entirely sure where it was going to be going. They play bishop e7, which is good. But now I push e5. So this central push, and this is part of the aggression from the Vienna Gambit. They capture back again. That knight is still under attack. They move that out of the way. That's fine. Here I decide to move the queen to e2, and so my idea here is I would probably end up castling queenside, get the king sort of out of this position. Potentially queen also defending that pawn. And potentially there might be a discovered attack on the king. So that was my idea. Stockfish didn't like it so much, but I think this is a reasonably normal, Vienna game idea. they now bring the queen out. And this was a mistake because basically I now have a fork and I've sort of make use of that. So knight to d5, again, is a very common idea in the Vienna game. That queen probably needs to go back here, I think. Yep, so that was the best move. But by moving forward, what that means now is that bishop is now not defended. So I can take the bishop pair, and more than that, the king is forced to capture as the only defender. And this is potentially really quite good for me because now they've given up the right to castle. The king is still stuck in the center. You know, that file is potentially open. That file is open / semi-open. King is in the center. This is not good for the opponent. And you can see Stockfish already says plus 6.5. Here, bishop g5 with another check. So forced the king back, but allowed me to develop a piece. You know, these pieces are really very much stuck, hard to develop. And now I have the long castles queenside, which was my plan all along. And this knight actually can't really move out of that position because with that king there, it's effectively pinned to that square. So it's not pinned to a piece, but it's pinned to that square because if it moves out of that place, rook infiltrates all the way to the opponent's back rank. And this is very, very bad for black. So here I'm doing really, really well. They moved queen a4 with a potential attack here, but easily defended against. And now the queen is sort of out of the defense of the king, which is slightly problematic. They play a6, probably a waiting move, but now I've got an attack on the knight. And if the knight captures here, I'll be really happy with that because I can capture back. I can probably capture it because remember it's relatively pinned to the area, and I actually want to open up these files. I want to somehow get rid of that pawn. The opponent sort of sees that, but has no choice but move their knight to the edge of the board where it's really not really doing very much. And so now pawn forward to e6. So that pawn is moving places, either capture or capture. So either way, I can probably clear that file, which is what I want. They capture, queen captures back, and now already a mating net with ideal play. But that's a pretty hard ideal play to find. My opponent here makes a mistake. Knight f6. Logically it seemed to make sense. You move it out of the way, discovered check on the queen, but it doesn't work because, as you remember, that knight is really pinned to that square to disallow the rook from entering. And now the rook enters and the king has nowhere to go. And so the only way that the opponent can now block the check is either with the queen or with the knight. Now, if they played, let's say, the knight, that's absolutely disastrous because I believe, that is checkmate right away. So checkmate comes a little bit later if they block with the queen, which is what they did. But now, it's all lost, isn't it? So captures. This would have been a quick checkmate, but I actually didn't see that in the actual game. In fact, I played queen e7 with check, deflecting the king across, and now back rank mate. Good game, GG. There are two big takeaways from this game. One, declining the Vienna Gambit with d6 is not optimal. And two, opening principles are principles for a reason. I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.